Hello there, my name is Wale Farron. I'm a tech entrepreneur and this is Tech Roundup, your weekly opinion, views and analysis of the top tech events happening around the world with a focus on Nigeria. This week in our analysis segment, we'll discuss the CBN's new directive that may require banks to give Fintech access to its customer metadata. With me to analyze this week is Bolaji Moyo, a security expert and a leader in technology. Remember to stay tuned for the number of the week, which is at the end of the show. The show is packed, so let's get started. Let's start with the CBN story. The Central Bank of Nigeria may mandate the commercial banks to share their metadata with fintechs in order to increase access to financial services and provide better services to customers. The CBN Payment Director said recently that the directive was in line with the Apex Bank's 5-year vision and open banking regime policy that will require banks to open their account base to fintechs in order to bring more people into the financial system. The CBN has been hard at work to regulate Nigeria's financial system before the pandemic and even more so since, from partnering with the federal government on SME loan restructuring to providing financial support for aspects of the society affected by COVID-19 and kickstarting programs that encourage financial innovation. As a matter of fact, the Apex Bank promoted the use of regulatory sandbox, which we discussed on this show a few weeks ago. To help us unpack this and analyze this story is Bolaji Moyo. So, Bolaji, welcome to the show. So, what do you think about this new decision by CBN to open up with this regulation to ask commercial banks, at least in Nigeria, to open up to fintechs for innovation? What are your thoughts? From my perspective, if I can take it first, and I'll push it over to you. On the positive side, especially because I'm a player, in that space as a fintech, I see a lot of good things that can come out of this, especially from an innovation perspective. You can begin to think about so many applications that consumers can use that can drive, financial inclusion or access to financial system. We can simplify payments so much more that we don't have to rely on some of the players that exist today, right? We can aggregate, many Nigerians have multiple bank accounts. I want to see them all in one. You can see, a situation where that becomes really, really easy. Access to lending, credit assessment, because if I'm owing one bank, my information is available in another, just like that. So I see all sort of positive things that can happen here. How do you see this?
So it's great for a start. I mean, the thing is, you want users to be comfortable doing what they're doing. You don't want to remove as much inconvenience as possible. But for me personally, it's difficult for me to look at that without having my doubts, because when you mandate an entity to open up their API and also to supply data, then you can no longer hold them responsible for data breach that occurs. So what the data we're talking about is personal data. So, and if you have the fintechs consuming that data, now they have access to the data, and the security issues become much bigger. It is no longer localized to each of the individual banks. Now you're creating a giant, a pile of like a network, like a internet of some sort, where the bad guys can come in and just they have multiple opportunities to gain access to personal data. So I would say they sort out the regulation. There's a regulation around that, the NDPR. I would say they make sure they have a mechanism to adequately enforce that regulation. And then after that, every fintech and every bank needs to be aware of the fact that there are a lot of people that are also interested in the data, not for good reasons, but that awareness would help.
Yeah, so I agree with you, but I think beyond just providing a regulation that allows this to happen, I think the execution of this has to be, flawless, has to be 100%. And I think there are areas around the world where they've been doing this for the last several years that Nigeria can go take a look at and really study. The European financial system has been going around with this PSD2 for some time, which is a regulatory, not just a framework, but an implementation guide about how this is done. So to your point, it's not just about data. For the most part, access is to metadata that can then have access to the real data. So it's not like fintech are just going to now start seeing financial information. They might start seeing an index that then point them to the actual data. So in case the bad guys get access to this data that you are talking about, they only get access to an index, not the real data itself. So the implementation has to be guided for sure. But like I said at the beginning of our conversation, I think the positives are there, but I think you are bringing out a concern that must be looked at very critically as well. Is there any other point on this that you want to make?
Yeah. So don't get me wrong, it's definitely needed, but regardless of the nature of the data, if the bad guys can show that they have access to something, even if what they have access to is not useful, the impression that creates is that they might have access to more. So it is important that the European example that you referenced, these guys they take care of data protection, not primarily because of regulation, but because they know that doing that enables their business. So that's the angle that the financial services sector in Nigeria need to be coming from. And if they do that well, then adoption is going to drive adoption, because already, not every Nigerian is comfortable because of the liability as well. If somebody gets into my bank account and steal my
How
money,
am I protected?
how
Yeah,
easy
exactly.
will it be for me to get that money back?
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Bolaji, for that. In the end, the future of fintech and bank collaboration will only work with mutual respect of both their varying offering, productive value for their customers as the central focus, and drive for financial inclusion. Both have a critical part to play to increase access to financial resources, especially to the unbanked and underbanked. Until then, this effort by CBN and certain collaboration may just be wishy-washy and with no serious basis. Our number of the week is 18 million. According to an independent study, open banking could realize 18 billion pounds in value for British people and small businesses over the course of 1 year, but only if the industry, government and regulators act to ensure that the project realizes its potential. That's all that time will allow us to take this week. As always, we love to hear your comments and feedback, so please connect with me on LinkedIn at Wale Farron, or on Twitter at Wale Farron as well. And please subscribe to the Tech Roundup YouTube channel if you haven't done so. Have a great week ahead, guys, and see you all again next week.